Hello, one and all. Welcome to the Up and Comer Show. This is a podcast all about learning how to live a good life. That is what we are doing each and every week. We believe with our mantra that takes having intention in the tension. Life is full of it. We are waiting in the middle of it, and we're doing it together in community here at the Up and Comer Show. So thanks for tuning in. Before we get to today's special interview, a couple housekeeping. Please leave us a rating and review on iTunes. There's many of you that have, and there's a lot more of you that haven't. So scroll down on your phone if you're listening and tap that 5-star or 4-star or even 3-star, depending on what you think or how you feel. But if you want to drop a comment, Adam and I may read your review on air. So fun time to get some airtime, and we'd love it if you'd support us that way. If you wanted to throw a couple dollars our way, Patreon is the best place to do that. We've got some different tiers set up, and that's a great place to support the show if you believe in it and you want to help us pay the bills. So definitely check that out. Those all will be linked in the show notes at theupandcomershow.com/episodes/Paul. That's right, Paul, which is going to get us to today's episode. But before I do, one other special announcement. We are officially launching our YouTube channel. So if you want, if you're a big YouTuber, a big YouTube listener, watcher, etc., you're going to be able to get all of our episodes on YouTube going forward. So definitely check us out. Definitely check us out on YouTube. The Up and Comer Show. You can find us and tune in to all of the podcasts dropping on that platform as well. Exciting times for the UNC fam. All right, enough housekeeping. Today, you already got the teaser. It is an interview with my friend Paul Tellefsen, also known as Techno Paul, if you follow him online at all. So who is Paul? Well, Paul Tellefsen is a connector, cultural architect, and story listener. He was born and raised in Dallas, Texas, but currently resides in San Diego, California. Known digitally as Techno Paul, Paul grew up in the arts with his first passion being music. Now with his degree in emerging media and communication, he has been in the creative industry full-time for 7 years, working in various positions and projects like Instagram Is, a documentary, Sociality, a creative community, and Able Creative House, which is a creative agency. His mission is to create a culture of healthy and meaningful connection, and he does that by teaching the value of disconnection and solitude, and by creating environments that foster relationship. Definitely want to check him out on the socials at TechnoPaul. You can also find his other stuff at Sociality and at We the Able. Instagram is definitely probably one of his most used platforms. But this was an amazing conversation. Paul is an incredible guy, and it was super fun to just sit down in his home in San Diego and share a couple hours of life together. We talked all about his journey. I think the fun part was the first half was a lot about his story, where he comes from, filling in the context for the man you see online and for the things that he is doing, that the man behind the scenes and all of that he is doing. We talk about that big transition from Dallas to San Diego. We talk a lot about the creation of Instagram Is, which is his documentary, that kind of the launching point. We talk about being creative versus being logical. We talk about his creative journey and how the path he's walked down in his creative outlets and his career. We talk about his cross-disciplinary background. We talk about commitment and the fears around that. We talk about what his goals are, what his dreams are, and what he's pushing towards in the future. So this is really something I think you all will connect with, and you'll all benefit from listening. Definitely send us any thoughts you have, any questions or comments you might have, what you liked, what you didn't like. Definitely shoot over any of those at theupandcomershow@gmail.com. Drop us a line there, and reach out to Paul and say, hey, I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did, and just excited to share it with you. So theupandcomershow.com/episodes/Paul, where you can get all the show notes with all the links. Definitely check it out. And that's all I have for you. So please enjoy this interview with Paul Tellefsen. Paul Tellefsen, welcome to the Up and Comer Show.
Is this where I say hi?
You can if you want. I mean, we could be strangers, that too. But you know.
I didn't know. I just met you like a week ago, so I think we're
friends.
I think we're friends. Yeah,
we're officially friends.
I think this is the only second time I've ever seen you in person, actually.
Well, you did highlight. I did research, and and we've met in person, before once. And so I felt like I knew you coming in, but then you mentioned something you want to talk about tonight, and I didn't even know anything about that in your life. So it shows how good I am at doing research.
You think I gave you enough resources, but apparently none of those people said anything about this.
So we're just going to ask my own questions. We're going to say, you know what? I'm not even going to listen to these resources. No, I will actually. But the first question is...
Sorry about the squeaky chair.
Oh, that's me. I'm a squeak, guys. I'm going to be squeaking. So to get to know you better, for the people listening, and myself included, what would you say, the first thing that comes to mind, what makes you smile?
I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston.
Yes.
Every time.
That is amazing. That does. How does that song not make you smile? I think that's a better question.
It doesn't.
It can't not make you smile.
It does not make you smile.
We're off to a great start, folks. So that leads very well into my next question, which hits close to home. There's someone near and dear to you in your life that really wants to know this question. And it is, what kind of girl makes you want to dance? What kind of girl do you want to marry? Guess who asked that question?
Joseph.
Oh, wrong.
Oh, Bobby.
Wrong.
Shoot. It was a girl.
Yeah.
It's my sister.
Yeah, it's your sister. Of course, that's what all sisters want to know from their brother.
Of course. I should have known this. I'm sorry, Shay. I apologize now at the beginning. I know you're listening. I love you still.
But, just theoretically speaking, what do you look for in a girl that you want to marry?
Wow, you really went there really quickly. I thought we were still just getting to know each other thing. You're diving deep quick.
Well, you really want to dance with somebody.
That's true.
So who would that somebody that you want to dance with be?
Oh, well, do you want to dance, Thane?
I do love dancing.
You do. Mm-hmm. So I have a funny story about this. So I had some friends in town last year sometime, and they weren't staying with me, but they were just in town, and we were out somewhere at a restaurant, and they asked me this question. They said, what are the top 10 things you're looking for in your wife? I'm like, I hate the list.
It's the worst.
I hate the list.
That's why I kind of cringed when I asked.
That's why I had no answer for about 30 seconds. And I was like, no, I don't really care. They're like, well, I mean, the top 10 you can maybe have, but the top 3 are like the non-negotiables that mean everything. And then top 5 are like, if you really are desperate. I was like, geez, if you're going to make me answer this question, let me just think about what makes sense. So obviously, like, faith is a big part of this. I didn't even say that in that conversation. I just said, yeah, equally yoked, and our commitment to Jesus is an important thing first. Babies and travel.
Yes. That's great.
I love children, and there's something, and for me, like, I really can't wait to be a father.
Yeah.
But I also can't, there's kind of steps usually involved with all those different things. I mean, you can adopt as a single person. I had a conversation about that yesterday, but
wow.
Not for me specifically, just in general, what does that look like? But being a husband first is kind of how the process goes. So
yeah.
Anyways, I'd say those 2 things are really important for me. But also, I don't really know what I need either.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, even in this season of life, I've learned when it comes to friendship relationship, I really didn't know what I needed. And until those friends were a part of my life, you know who you are if you're listening and you live in San Diego.
San Diego.
Even the friends in my life, I didn't realize that, okay, I need people who challenge me and push up against and like sharpen edges around me or help give me edges. I'm someone who's very like sometimes compassionate to a fault, where like I just like overlook fault, which is a beautiful thing. Sometimes I forget fault that people have done to me or I've done to other people or just their own fault, which is great. But sometimes I get steamrolled. Another story for later. So like the having a wife who challenges me in that way to think deeper, but also just like live more free, less like analytically held down, like paralysis of analysis. Yeah, and also someone who can encourage me in my journey in life, and someone that I can encourage in theirs. I definitely want someone who's driven, who not all of a sudden I feel like I'm on like, I don't know, some dating show right now, but.
We can get you on one. This is not a dating show, but I do know someone.
Oh,
Shout out to Kate.
Hello, Kate. Who are you? But no, I think there's something about like I want someone who also has a calling in life too.
Yeah.
They're not just going to latch their life to me, but there's a parallel path that comes together, and you just keep walking together.
Yeah, I think listening to you answer this question that I kind of regretted asking after I asked it really is interesting, because it does help us understand someone, to be honest. Like hearing about their heart's desires in a companion helps us learn more about the person who's sharing. So it's interesting. I think it is a helpful thing for us to get to know who you are. Another helpful thing is that you're an Adele fan. So
oh no. No.
I'd love to hear about this Adele fanboyhood.
The story runs deep. It runs very deep. I know the story. I know the source of the story, and it has a lot of.
And everyone listening is dying to hear this story now.
I know. I do love Adele, and I am not a hipster, but I'm a hipster in the sense of I'm always the person who goes, oh my gosh, I was listening to her before anyone was listening to her. Oh, you just see, knowing about Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. Oh, I've been following that for like 2 years. You haven't read the book? Everything, this totally sparks joy for me right now. Anyways, there's going to be a lot of laughter on this podcast, so welcome. I hope this encourages your joy.
And gals, this is an evening recording, so we are nice and loose, and it's going to be fun.
So Adele, I found out about her through iTunes Music Singles way back in the day. And it was back when iTunes would give you a free song once a week. And so that's how I learned about the artist Phil Wickham originally.
Nice.
I fell in love with his music from a free single from there. And that's how I learned about Adele. It was Chasing Pavements originally. And it's like, oh my gosh, she's so awesome. And so my dad is a sound engineer, audio snob. And so we've had incredible music upbringing and education my whole life. So I love jazz as like just a base of my soul. Even deeper than that is like gospel. Sometimes I have a gospel soul for sure. But jazz is a big part of that too. So, and vocal, I guess it's kind of the same thing. But so my dad always had like music playing when we were kids. Like Saturday mornings was always wake up to music, which was really, really cool. And I still love doing that for myself, living, on my own now. But anyways, my dad got this album, this Adele record that was live at Royal Albert Hall. And it was like a music partnered with a DVD. And it was like the concert DVD. And we watched it me and my dad watched it together. And it was like incredible. It was so moving. You feel like you're in the room with Adele at Royal Albert Hall. And so for the preceding probably 6 months, anytime someone would come over to the house, we would put on Adele and like make them sit in the room and experience this record.
That's amazing.
And so there's a lot of friends who have the story of sitting in the house listening to like Set Fire to the Rain, Rolling in the Deep, like all the classics, and just like being so like deeply like shaken by Adele. Like she is so talented. She's so talented.
Wow.
Anyway, so Adele,
if you have not
Adele.
been shaken by Adele, you have not lived, says Paul. Thus saith Paul.
Thus saith Paul. Listen to Royal Albert Hall. Joseph, I appreciate the story.
I will say this. The best remix ever to have been done by one of the best artists, aka DJs of all time, is someone that I would like to say that I stumbled upon and kind of brought to the mainstream. And he goes by the name of Marshmello.
Oh.
Now, Marshmello has one of the best remixes of all time to none other than Adele's Hello. And it is unbelievable because the beauty of this remix, and we'll link in the show notes, the beauty of this remix is that he maintains the integrity of the original song, but just makes it even better, which is very, very hard to do with a song like Hello that's already insanely good and has a style of its own. he shifts the style without removing it, and it's just insane. So best remix of all time. Also goes assist to Adele.
Now, have you heard the remix from Third Story?
No.
Do you know Third Story?
No.
So, do you know Tori Kelly?
Yes.
I love Tori Kelly as well.
Unreal.
Obviously. She traveled with a band called Third Story. It was 3 guys who were roommates in New York together who realized they could all sing and play, and they made a band. They have this, like, not remix, I guess it's just a cover on YouTube. I think it's actually what made them famous, but it is incredible. It's like three dudes like harmonizing to Hello.
Wow.
Oh, it's so moving.
We'll link that in the show notes as well. That sounds phenomenal. Okay, this is I'm curious now. Best female vocalist in your opinion?
Oh, jeez. Female?
Yeah.
But I can answer male so quickly.
That's why I asked female.
Best female vocalist.
Okay, get the male out of the way, then we'll go female.
I mean, obviously, Whitney's way up there. Whitney's very, very high on that list. If not, maybe the top. Some people don't like Tori Kelly. I do love Tori because she is incredible. Yeah, I guess I would have to say Whitney Houston.
Nice.
For sure. I'm probably blanking on like 5 other people that I absolutely
love. I go a little bit more mainstream or a little bit more modern.
Okay.
Queen Bee, come on.
Oh, Bey? Put my love on top.
We're gonna come back to music. We'll definitely get back here. But so let's just go through how people describe you. There's a list of words that I have, and this is, I think, one thing that's telling of guests is when you ask people in their community to describe who they are. You get 2 different things. Usually you'll get a lot of common themes or very shared words, and then you start seeing like these are real core strengths. For you, it was a little bit different. It's very similar, but literally there weren't any repeated words. So it shows this. It shows a broadness of capacity and personality, which is pretty interesting. But here's how people would describe Paul: caring, thoughtful, consistent, dynamic, authentic, aware, present, creative, and irreverent. So it's very, this is a very complex human we're dealing with here. So there's going to take some unpacking today.
I'm still unpacking from my moves, so.
Yeah, no, you really are, and that's a great place to start.
Irreverent, interesting.
Very interesting,
I wonder what that means.
So speaking of the recent move, where do you come from, Mr. Paul?
Like in my life, or like originally where I was born, because I was actually born about 26 years ago, almost 27 years ago.
Wow.
I mean, that's where all of life begins, right?
It does.
For me,
yeah.
For my life. Yeah.
And what city was that in?
Oh, it's the great state of Texas.
The great state of Texas.
I apologize. The great country of Texas.
It's very true.
The Republic.
I know. My brother-in-law is Texan, so I know her very well. I've heard you guys would be best friends,
Texas
of course.
forever, hashtag.
Yes.
I'm originally from Dallas, born and raised my whole life. I grew up in the same house for the first 23 years of my life. And I think 22 years. And I'm the only Texan in my family, though. So I have one older sister who's 2 years, 8 months older than me. Her name's Shay. But she was originally born in Maryland. My mom was born in Henderson, Kentucky, and my dad was born in Brooklyn. So he's actually the first generation born in America.
Wow.
His parents were originally from Norway, and they took the boat in like 46 or 47 and came to America. And his dad was actually the chief civil engineer of New York City originally. So he oversaw the building of the bridges and the tunnels and the ice skating rink in Central Park is one thing that he always tells us that he oversaw the building for. So just and as well, my mom's parents were traveling evangelists. So she grew up a lot of her life traveling around the Southwest and a lot of America, preaching revivals, playing the piano. They would do the speaking, everything mixed together.
Yeah.
So just a rich history of really great men and even women. But sadly, before I was born and or could have the opportunity to know them, both of my grandmas died really early, just from different diseases. One specifically from Alzheimer's, and just definitely difficult to not grow up with grandmas that were biologically yours. But both of my grandpas have been remarried since, and Really awesome people. So in all very biblical fashion, my dad's dad, we call him Bestefar because in Norwegian that means dad's dad, Bestefar. His real name's Gilbert, which is my middle name. I'm actually named after both of my grandpas.
Dang.
And my other grandpa we call Papaw, because that's just his name. And he remarried his wife's sister because her husband also died. So when both of their spouses passed, they had just become best friends through the process. And we call her Tante Marian, which means Aunt Marian.
Wow.
So it's, and my mom's dad's new wife is named Thelma. So it's like when people ask you who you're going to see, I'm like, oh, Papa and Thelma. Like, who's that?
Yes.
Like my grandparents. Like,
yes.
Going to see Bestefar and Tante Marian. Like, what? Actually, next week, I will be flying to D.C. to celebrate my grandpa's 90th birthday.
Wow.
Which is awesome. Both of my grandpas are aging very well, and he's still so mobile. And, like, I'm incredibly encouraged by his, like, work ethic. I definitely, like, take from that. But anyways, my parents met in Tucson, Arizona, and then moved to Texas shortly after living in D.C. for a while. And that's where I was born.
And then rewind the clock 3 years ago when you were 22 or 23. Did you stay in Dallas for a bit? Where did you move from there? You said you stayed in you grew up in that home for 22, 23 years, and then what did the last 3 to 4 years hold?
Yeah, so I tell people I've lived in the same city my whole life because I still have. So I moved out of my parents' house and moved in with my sister, actually. So she moved out for college. I ended up staying home and just commuting to school. Just I wanted to save money, and it was the right school for me. So I just thought, I don't care about whatever this looks like. I don't mind staying home. Saved a lot of money, and my parents were gracious enough to help me through school, which is awesome. So I came out of school with no debt. Amazing. Shout out to all the women who still want to marry me right now. No debt is a big thing, right? Anyways, Thank you, Mom and Dad, for that, training me for money. And so I moved in with my sister. She had just gotten an apartment. Well, her roommate had just moved out of her apartment, so I moved in with her. And then she bought a house, actually, and just about 2 or 3, I guess like 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago. And so I just kept living with her, moved in with her, and she became my landlord.
That's amazing.
So me and my family are very, very close. It's just me and my sister, so like we're a very intimate family. The other funny thing about my family, which a lot of people don't know, is I have no first cousins. None of my aunts or uncles have children. One is said is married, the other one isn't. And so I just grew up like with my family being my family, and friends being friends, not like necessarily relatives. I have a ton of second cousins and third cousins in Norway, but other than that, like none of them live near me. Actually, the last time I went to Norway was in 2017, and in Norway they put in the newspaper like the open weddings to go and just be a part of. You can just go and sit in the top of the church and watch. Nice. And so it was like this church down the street from my grandparents' house. And we walk in and we sit up top, and my Bestefar leans over and he's like, "Oh, this is your third cousin, by the way." I'm like, "Oh, great. Never met him before, but I'm at his wedding." Just a funny moment. Like, wow, there actually is a lot of Tellefsens in the world.
That's awesome. So this is really interesting. So you have a very close family. You have a very like small unit that is your family. And what was it, a year ago, or maybe not even that long ago? How long ago was it? 6 months?
That I moved?
6 months ago, you packed bags and turned into the black sheep, and here we are in San Diego.
I moved last May of 2018 originally.
Okay. Wow.
That's a bit of a chronology of story. I mean, I'm not the first one to move out of my parents' house in my family, which that's the funny thing. We talk about this as family, and they get on to me. But I'm like, all of you did this. My dad moved out when he was like 18 or 16 or something like crazy like that. I mean, my mom moved out when she was 18 and just, went her own way and did her own thing. And so me doing it is just like I'm the first one in our little unit to like as the kids to move out and like take the journey. But I mean, what do you want to know about that?
I guess talk to me about the experience of it as you reflect on it now. Like, why was that important? And what has the effect been on you since then?
That's a loaded question, Thane.
That's why I asked it.
How long you got? This is the grab your coffee moment. So the first time I came to San Diego was just over 6 years ago now, and I'd made a documentary, and we had this art show that it was getting featured in, and so I came out for that, and just like kind of fell in love with the city the first time I came. And that was a long time ago, but I knew like on that trip at some level that, I think I could actually live here. But growing up in the same city my whole life, I guess I have been really blessed to be able to travel. And so I grew up kind of seeing the world and not necessarily being in a bubble, which I'm incredibly grateful for to my parents. But there was something about like, I don't know, the allure of California is like, so, as a bit of a self-proclaimed romantic, like there's like definitely a romanticism to living in California and living the dream and doing all those things that I didn't want to be the reason that I made a move just because it felt like exciting. I wanted there to be like purpose and intention behind moving out for the first time, moving out from underneath my family and my parents. And so it took me 5 years to actually make the decision to live here. What's funny is most people I meet here, they all made the decision about 3 months before they moved. Like, I'm going to move to California. Now I'm here. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, but I'm going to figure out when I get here. That's not me. That's not my story. I didn't sleep on couches when I lived here. I wasn't looking for a job. Like, those doors really opened through just, I guess, the obedience of like taking the right steps at the right time. And so it was December of 2017. I was on a trip out here. I don't think that's the first time I met you though. I think that was last summer, I think, probably. But I'd done another documentary trip with another documentary, which is what's funny. That's really, really interlinked. And I came on a trip and I was in LA and just woke up one morning and just felt super claustrophobic in the city. And I just thought, I need to get out of LA. I wouldn't necessarily choose to live in LA. If I did, awesome. But so I rented a truck and I drove down I-5 and just drove to San Diego. And it's like, I gotta go there. I didn't plan to do it, but I just came and ended up coming and seeing a friend and sat on the beach in my car at Torrey Pines. And my friend Joseph had given me this like prayer to pray through. And one of the things I dealt with heavily was just false responsibility. Just as someone who's super empathetic and caring, like I carry a lot of, like I've put on responsibility for people that I don't necessarily need to, which can internally for me come across in kind of a controlling or manipulative way where I'm trying to like, I don't know. There's a lot tied into all that.
Tension,
yeah, there's a tension in it, which is not necessarily the healthiest. And he gave me this prayer. He's like, hey, I just don't know why, but you need this. I ran into him in a coffee shop called George in Dallas, and I just thought, he just like, I think I need to give this to you. So I took a picture of it, and I'm sitting there just like having some time just to breathe and think and kind of process like, what am I doing here? Do I really want to live here? Like, what is this? I need an answer to this. And I already had really felt strongly like I want to make this happen, but this was like for me kind of one of those moments where I'm like, this is finally going to happen. There's another story tied into this which I should for sure tell, and I'm sitting there and I God reminds me of this prayer that Joseph had given me, so I bring it up and I walk through it and pray through it, and it's one of those moments in my life that I really will never forget. I got it after praying through it. I got this immediate headache. And like had immediate clarity. It was really, really interesting. I think really there's this scripture in Hebrews 11 that says like, lay aside every weight and sin that so easily entangles so you can run the race with endurance. And what I realized is I think there was just a lot of weights holding me back from doing this and a lot of excuses. And in that moment, like letting go of all those responsibilities kind of gave me the freedom to go, why am I not already here? Like what's actually holding me back from this? And that was December 8th of 2017. And yes, I know the date exactly. Yeah. It's an important date in my life. And I knew then like I'm gonna make this happen. And there's a pretty crazy story tied in with how all those pieces came together. But 5 months later, I ended up pulling out and moving here.
And fast forward to now, as you reflect on these last 10 months or so. How has living in San Diego just for 10 months changed you as a man?
In every way. That's pretty much the bottom line of it. One thing that I'm really good at is not avoiding pain. I really suck at enjoying life. That's one of the challenges of this year for me is like to enjoy life. But I'm someone who is risk averse but not pain averse. And so in moving here, I made really intentional decisions to live uncomfortably. I'd never lived on my own in my whole life, but I'd always had a dream of having my own space and having people in it and hosting people. But I had these opportunities to live with people, and I chose not to. There was like a house of 7 guys, or like finding some random roommate that you've never met before and living with them. And I'm just going, this doesn't feel right. And part of me didn't want to have the crutch of friends to come home to. Like, I wanted to be able to come home and have the space to wrestle and process through what was changing, or what was already being worked through. But it's kind of like I came from the season I was in Dallas to entering into the same season I was in here. It was just I was living somewhere else. There's a lot of internal processing, a lot of internal like growth and like freedom, to be honest, at a really deep level. I would say that the baseline of what's changed is just a deep sense of peace. I think I lived with a lot of anxiety around like making life happen, making the right opportunities come about, and thinking that I have something to do with it when they do. And so it's really just been letting go of control in a really large way, whether that's with my business, with relationships, with in my walk with Jesus, like all those different things, like just kind of like letting go of like making progress happen. Because I really realized a deep sense of just like manipulative control, handicapping myself that I had really been walking through my whole life. And there's a lot tied into all of this.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of crazy moments, but the first 100 days was like kind of numb, to be honest. I think most people probably experienced that. But I didn't really feel much of anything. And there was a moment on day 100. If you haven't learned already, I remember dates for some reason really clearly.
We talked about this before air in length. Yes.
In length. Oddly symbolic, rememberative of dates person. That everything really just changed for me. Like, just had a moment where God showed up in my house, and everything kind of changed. And all of these dominoes began to fall. And there's a long history of all those things, but yeah, that's that story.
I want to retouch on some of the things you just said. And I think what's interesting is that we all have anxiety around making stuff happen. I think that's universally human, and it's displayed in many different ways, but at the end of the day, I really think that's God's design, is for us to let go. There's freedom in that, and what that allows us to do is to walk forward by faith. And that's the point, is like, whether or not you're a person of faith, I don't think that changes that reality, right? Like, even in the coaching world, right, that I'm in, or any of the thoughts on the fixed versus growth mindset, all those are entailing is like, look, you have the ability to take one step forward, right? And then you have the ability to take another step forward, right? And that's walking by faith, ultimately.
Yeah, it is.
And there's a great, there's so many quotes about it. One of my favorites is this guy in Anne Lamont's book. He said that writing a novel is like driving a car at night. You can only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way.
Ouch.
And that's life, So it's all about that baby steps of walking by faith, one step at a time. And in that is the freedom of letting go of control. And
you're reading my mail to me right now.
It's it,
so
right?
many stories I want to tell you.
Yeah, and that's what you were just sharing that too. So I think I just wanted to underscore that. But I want to hear more on, the thing I do want to hear more on is enjoying life. Because I think that's one of the least recognized problems that we have in America as a whole, but maybe even just as humans. But I know in America it's a huge problem, and I suffer this as well. I think I am neither risk nor pain averse, and so that's a dangerous combo when it comes to enjoying life, because usually they just heap on more of both of each other. And I've struggled with that. Like I've been really forcing myself to rest and enjoy life more, and finding, like, I'm really thankful God's brought more balance recently, but it is more recent and it's still a struggle. So for you, like, how have you grown, or how do you think about enjoying life, or what's that process like for you?
I would say it started. I've always enjoyed life, but I think there's just been something in me that felt like if I experience more pain, then I am more righteous or more holy, or Like it's it's martyrdom, really,
Yes.
which is not a place to live. And just I didn't grow up in a family that was necessarily legalistic. Like really like rule enforcing, do this, don't do this, don't do this. My family's been very much open. My mom has a long, crazy, awesome testimony of just her life, and she raised us totally different. And there's some really crazy stories of the way that my parents parented me. It's odd that me and my sister ended up kind of more like very conservative, very rule following, very much like do this, but don't even ever think about that. And so enjoying life, my mom was really great at enjoying life, but for some reason I sucked at it. And so, yeah, I think a lot of the process started, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, where at least the journey of it now that I'm on. And it was kind of just this really simple, repetitious theme that I begin to see in my life. And you touched on it, but it kind of draws everything back. It's this idea of one step at a time. And there's a lot of story tied into this in my life. And for a couple, I don't know, months, I'd been seeing this same theme. Every time I would look at a clock or I'd look at something, like, again, the symbolism of all of this, it just runs deep. I would see the numbers 1234, and it was really weird and random out of the blue. And someone just said, like, hey, do you think that's like God trying to say something to you? And I'm like, if I'm going to read into it, maybe. And then I started reading into it, and I'm like, maybe he is. And this was right when a lot of my process started about moving here, and I started realizing, I think, yeah, like if I get too far ahead of myself and try to make this happen, then I'm gonna get lost along the way, and I'm gonna fall off this mountain that I'm climbing up. Like I only need to see what's directly in front of me. And so that started a bit of that process of learning, like, let go of control. All you need to know is the next thing. And so it started entering me into more of an understanding of peace, for sure. But as a very relational person, my bent is to make people God. And a lot of my story is very much one of having a lot of friends growing up, then going through a long period of isolation and loneliness that was really confusing and disheartening, and felt like God had kind of like abandoned me in some way. And that really put me into some hard places, and it was a great thing, and I look back and I'm grateful for it now, and it gave me a heart for what we're talking about because of those spaces. But I refer to it like speaking and listening.
Yeah.
You can't first speak until you've listened, and you can't first connect or enjoy life until you've disconnected. So I think the first step in enjoying life is learning how to disconnect.
That is money. Just repeat that, rinse and repeat that, folks. As on your listening on the iPod player, just click the back 15 seconds and re-listen to that. That's awesome, dude. So have we talked about the Enneagram before?
We have.
Remind me what number you are.
I don't know.
You don't know.
People try to guess what number I am. And
yeah.
Part of me enjoys that process too much.
That you don't want to do it just because you want them to guess.
Well, I don't.
I have a friend.
I have a lot of thoughts about that.
I have a friend who's in the same place. She's very resistant to taking it because she enjoys being undefined. And I appreciate that about her.
I'm not a 4, but I don't know. I think honestly I'm probably more of a 2. I'm not, just like the helper mentality. Some people say I'm like a 9.
I was gonna say you're almost like a 7.
I could be a 4, but I could be a 7. Some people say I'm a 6. I don't know. I'm across the board.
I like it. Well, how about this spectrum? Because some of the research I did revealed a little bit more that I think maybe external persona that people see is very extroverted, people, warm, loving, but the side that more close friends see is that introverted, reflective, very intentional person. So where are you on that intro to extroverted spectrum, and like how does that play out in life for you?
I am 6% more extroverted than introverted. If you're gonna go by the Myers-Briggs.
Oh, so this is like Myers-Briggs version. Okay.
Yeah.
What about the Paul T version? Would you agree with that 60-40?
It's more like 56%, and like it's like it's kind of
okay.
Yeah, it's like kind of in that range. I totally agree with that, and I think as I've gotten older, I've really seen that. I think a lot of me originally forced a lot of extroversion because I wanted the acceptance from people, and so like I would be funny and loud and obnoxious to get attention and love. Yeah. And as I've gotten older, I realized like, why was I doing all that stuff? So totally, like, I think especially in this time in life here, like I am a lot more introverted. Because I love the reflective thought and the like contemplative spirituality and the process, and all of that stuff. But I also like the extroverted part of me like loves to be around big personalities, just because it's exciting for me. I'm a big personality, but around big personalities, I'm very quiet actually, because I'm a reluctant leader, I guess is what you call it. Like if someone else is leading, I'm like, okay, sweet, someone's leading, I don't need to. But if no one's taking like command, I'll go, okay, I'm gonna be the person. I'm gonna step up, and we're gonna do this because someone needs to do it. But I don't naturally just like choose those positions. I have to be forced into them. If that it describes it maybe a bit more.
Yeah, no, I'm 60-40 extro intro, so we're very similar in that.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's fun. Like golf really brought the introverted side of me out. That wasn't. I started out and I think I heard that you started out as a very shy kid as well.
Very, very shy.
Yeah, my parents were like forcing me to talk to people, and then totally flipped a 180 at a pretty like in my junior high years, and then turned into really kind of a social butterfly in many ways, and then
Yeah.
in professional golf really kind of rebounded that introvert side because it was a lot of lone warrior kind of out in the road and on the tour, and just it was really a lot more. So now I'm definitely like after playing golf I'm 60-40, but before then I was probably like 80-20, like
Wow.
Yeah.
I was so shy that I was stuck behind my mom's leg.
Wow.
Like if people would poke fun at me, like I would go in the other room and cry because I was so sensitive to like people like sarcasm and all that stuff. I feel like part of me was just traumatized in being an introvert at some level and being young like that.
100%. So I think this has been a fun start, and I think the reason why I really appreciate this what we've been able to dive into already is because it's showing the human behind the face and the reality that most people see online. And I think that's interesting about this is like people heard in the intro, and that people that know who you are from the work you've done is you see these incredible things that you've been able to do and that you're a part of. And people don't realize like he is a human and he has a story, and there's things going on that we're all working through. And so I think there's some beauty in that, just to see, look, like we all have a story, we all come from somewhere, and we're all doing something, right?
The thing that I've learned most in the past year and a half is that I'm human. I think I finally let myself be human, and that was really, really hard. I get emotional thinking about it because I know the moment in my brain right now, and the just that event in my life of just like realizing, my gosh, all the control and manipulation stuff that we kind of hinted towards was me trying to be God. And there was that moment where God's going, you are not me, and you can't be me. So like accept the fact that you are the way that you are, and move forward with your life and live a greater peace. So that the fact that you just said all that, I'm like, oh, I could weep over your thing.
Yes. No, and I mean, it's similar. I phrased it differently for myself, and I was talking earlier today about it when we was giving a golf lesson. But in golf and in professional golf, like the goal was to make a human being into a robot, which is to say to make them into a god, right? In a sense, like it's the same thing, just a different version of it. Yeah. It's like, how can you become a robot to where literally like everything you do is the same every time to produce the best results and win, right?
Totally.
And that's not how you play your best golf. You play your best golf by dancing, by allowing your body to do what it knows it can do, and by freeing it up to embrace the moment and be reactive, and to dance and perform. And that's the beauty of being human. And that's the beauty of life and enjoying life, like we were talking about. It comes full circle.
The best skillets are seasoned, right? They're not clean out of the box. You need something that has flavor to it, or else it's just boring, right? Hopefully that chicken earlier was good.
No, the chicken. Yeah. Paul's got some cooking skills too, ladies.
Hey, ladies.
I can't believe we started on that. This is so not like. This is not the norm.
It's not me. I promise.
I know this was funny. Yeah, this was so funny. Okay, so that's where I want to dive in, because this is the thing that I'm really interested in, and there's so many people that want to hear from you on this, and that is, okay, this is who Paul is, right? But what Paul does. And what he's done is some incredible things. So Instagram is what kind of kicked off the chain of events, has now led to not only Sociality, which has been a sweet endeavor, right? But We the Able. And I'm forgetting Techno Paul and all the work that you're doing personally. But you've got a lot of moving pieces. Totally. You've got a lot of things that you started that you're a part of and that you're doing now. And with this, there's always a process. There's always A to B, right? And nothing happens by chance. And so the thing that is people are dying to hear, and I am too, is we want to know about your creative work and what your creative process has been, because from the outside looking in, and from your perspective, even, like, it's unusual, it's unique. Like, you've had a very unique path, and I'd love for you to dive into.
Yeah.
I want to hear, I guess, early on, how did you think about the creative process, and when did that your framework for thinking start in that, and then how has that changed and shifted as you've grown as a creative in the work that you do? Big questions, I know.
I was going to say that
we'll unpack this.
We're going to unpack this. My mom is an interior designer, and she was also a stockbroker. So she
fascinating.
She's a very fascinating and smart individual. Also beautiful. That doesn't matter as much when you're super smart.
That's awesome.
Anyways, side note. My dad is a mechanical engineer. Went to Ivy League college, like, just from like a really smart parents. And so I had a really great. Me and my sister both have a great balance of creative and logic. And so even when you're talking about like how we respond to things, you were talking about this earlier off air. It totally is like you allow yourself to respond emotionally, and then you react and think logically. And then you like express creatively. And it's like this interesting like blend. So I was always that way as a kid, like very creative but very logical. And me and my sister both are like this, and it's so interesting the way that we process and see the world and think about things, because we can dream big and be big visionaries, but then we can also get to like the brass tacks of how to actually make it happen, which is, I'm extremely grateful for that ability. So as a 5-year-old is when I found my love for music. That's kind of where all of my creative journey begins, is as a 5-year-old. Got my first role in a church production. I was Little Yeshua. I was Joseph's son, and I had a solo. It was like 1,000-person church, so like it was like kind of a big deal. And that kind of like put me down the road towards like experiencing and discovering like the creative ability within me. And not only that, but we're all creative. It's the pedestal I will choose to die on if I need to. But and so music was like that first big thing in my life, and it's something now in life that I'm really coming back to that most people don't actually know about. But from there, my dad was also a sound engineer, and my mom sang. And so like I was always involved with like volunteering at church and being there early, and eventually that changed into volunteering with lighting. And that actually is how a lot of people originally knew me back then, actually, was as a lighting engineer. And so for about 8 years of my life, I got paid for it, and I did a long time of it volunteer, but doing like just stage lighting for church events or concerts or whatever it might be. And what's interesting about that like time in life is it started to unlock something in me that I realized that I'm someone who loves to create environments. And use like my creative ability to create environments for connection. And if I was to describe anything about my mission in life, it's to connect people with people and people with God through like spaces of opportunity of connection. And so I moved from like lighting, something so kind of random, but so like worthwhile and understanding of like the creative process and the production behind like, I mean, sure, music, but just life in general. Is I was actually 12 years old when I first found out I could shoot photos. We were on a trip to my mom's dad's farm in Missouri, and my mom had this little Nikon that was like a point and shoot at the time, but had this fixed lens, and it was 3 megapixel, and it was awesome. It was the best thing ever. And I remember we had like a day where we went out and explored around the farm, and I took photos, and that was the moment where I went, I really like doing this. And that was, like 14 years ago now. And from there, I thought there was this progression with creativity where you go from you start with design, you go to photo, you go to video, then you go to animation. That's just how my brain works. I'm like, obviously there's like a flow to this. You're not just going to stick in photo the rest of your life. Because before that I was doing web design stuff. So I started like growing more into photo, but I was also still doing graphic design and web design kind of all together. Shout out to iWeb if there's any ex-iWeb users out there. Now it's Squarespace, but that's another story. And so like I started realizing, okay, I really like photo, but I think video is even better. So I started shooting little videos for church or for like my sister's drill team at school, which is the origination of Techno Paul, by the way. Most people don't know this story. My sister was on drill team. She was, I don't know, I think it's the year before she was captain. In her 11th grade year, I was a 8th grader, which, big deal. All the upperclassmen.
Oh, yeah.
All those ladies.
Oh, yeah. The older sis in high school is like the coolest card ever because you have her and
access.
all her friends.
All the access.
Ditto.
And so I was making videos for her squad, and one of them was like, "Oh my gosh, you're so good with technology, Paul. You're like Techno Paul." And I'm like, I am Techno Paul. This is a great name.
You're right, girlfriend.
Shout out to Brittany McPherson. All
Nice.
credit. Your check is in the mail.
Royalties.
And so the name came around, and I just thought Techno Paul makes sense on AIM. And then when Instagram came out, I'm like, obviously I'm just going to be Techno Paul because that makes the most sense. The other name I could have gone with is Ann Papatakawong. That was, yeah, I saw your eyes. That was some kid's last name at church that me and my sister both were obsessed with saying because it was so fun. Ann Papatakawong. And so that became my AIM username. So very grateful to become my Instagram one. Very passionate about that not happening.
Well, I mean, I'll fill in with one of my usernames.
Yes, please. I also had CCA Boy, an EU guy.
Oh,
for.
nice.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
the Hotmail that's still around is curly_31. That was my first Hotmail ever. But I will say the Twitter that I had for about 3 or 4 years before my sister lovingly forced me to change it is at YB the Rockstar 10, and it's THA the Rockstar. So
wow, this says everything
it
about
says
you.
a lot. Yeah,
It
no,
does.
I mean, I self-proclaimed ya boy YB that was my nickname
Ya boy.
in high school.
I forgot about ya boy. Good thing you didn't write a book with those kind of spelling errors.
It could have been interesting.
Ya boy.
Oh, it's too good. It's too good. Okay, back to Technopole.
Back to the TP. Anyways, so yeah,
Video,
I started shooting videos, and that became kind of a thing, and then just thought maybe the next thing is animation. And so I originally was going to do I was looking for a graphic design program somewhere because that's all that people mostly had. So I was originally going to go to either Oral Roberts or Baylor, and because they had graphic design programs, but started at drawing. And I'm like, I don't want to start there. Originally, when I grew up, I wanted to be a doctor, and I didn't want to do that because it took for so long.
Yeah.
I'm like, I guess I have a great bedside manner, which would probably make me a better nurse. But the doctor, I'm like, I just don't think I wanted to be a chef too because I love food. But another story. That's one thing about me. Everything's a story.
Yes,
even
of
everything,
course.
everything I wear is a story too. It's a whole other story. That's another story.
That will be the subtitle of this.
A whole nother story.
Yes.
A whole nother story with Technopole. You can call me Technopole if you want. So when I was looking for colleges, University of Texas at Dallas, they had this program called ATech, Arts and Technology, and it was a actual animation degree. And so I just thought, okay, this is probably where I think this is the right place. And there was a lot of just confirmation from friends and in faith, and I'm like, this is the right place for me. My first time not being in a Christian school, which is a big bubble shock. And my first day at orientation, we were in all of the pre-gathering. They're talking about the Arts and Humanities program, and they talk about this other major called Emerging Media and Communication called EMAC. And I hear about this, and I know immediately, I think this is my degree. Can I switch degrees now? I know we haven't even started classes, but can I switch now? Another thing to note is I actually graduated high school with 31 credit hours and was a I was a second year freshman basically.
Yeah.
I guess you can call it that. Just was really high achiever and still am, but
Ditto.
Seriously though, how many different things are you involved with? 18?
Hey, coming from you, I don't want to hear it.
It's true. It's true. We're both guilty. Put the pot calling the kettle black.
Yes.
And so I just knew this is the right program for me. And so after a semester of failing computer programming, which is my first D ever in a class,
Amazing.
I never even gotten a C in a class. So it was
Yeah.
I knew this was not the right place for me. Because, and so then I switched and just fell in love with that program. And during that time, I got offered through a crazy series of events, a job at the church, and started working full time there as the media coordinator, which was really the creative director for the young adults ministry at Gateway Church. And on staff, there was a pastor, an admin, and me. It was a 1,000-person ministry. And so basically I was the only creative part of the team. And so I was in charge of all the production. So all that lighting training is coming back, as well as all the creative. So it kind of gave me the ability to do all of the Swiss Army knife of creativity, of things that I knew that I loved and was somewhat good at. and challenge. Some people ask me, like, when did you pick which one you wanted to do with your life? I'm like, I don't think I ever picked. Kind of doing all of them still. And literally, I just helped a friend design his album for his new music project that just came out. Shout out to Graham Saber. So I'm still like doing all these other things along with photography. It just seems like most people know me for that. Anyway, so in college, working now full time for the church, and in my second to last semester. And I should say the EMAC program was like the first of its kind. It was kind of like the social media degree is what people called it, but it wasn't PR or marketing necessarily. It was more the understanding and the implications of digital society on our society, and how as humans we are digital citizens of that society, and then the implications of that within all of our lives. So I took a whole class on viral media, which was interesting, and we studied like the Black Plague in London and how that like mimics the spread of virality of not only like things like language, but actual media objects like videos or just like super ethereal concepts or constructs of like society. Really, really difficult major.
I bet.
Oh my gosh. It was not just tweeting for a class, which kind of was, and some classes was like that. But I was in a video like extracurricular course. And one of the things was to make a fake movie trailer, and so there's a bit of a story behind me getting on Instagram, but because I was in this degree, we had to be on it, right? We had to be on all the new social media that came out because it's like, well, this is that degree, so got to jump on. And so for the first couple of years in college, like I didn't realize that this is a community thing. I thought it was just an editing app, which I think most people went through that same story. And when I realized it was a community thing is when I followed a guy named Corey Stadacher at With Hearts. And he was like the first guy I followed who was traveling around America, hosting these things called Insta Meets. Who knew what those were? And like meeting these people that he had never seen in person before, but they seemed like friends. And I went, how is that possible? Like, how is that a real thing? Like, that's called catfishing, isn't it? Like, how do I trust that person? Right?
Yeah.
It's like a whole new wave of relationship and opportunity for our society with online relationships and connection with social media. And that just kind of baffled me. And so there was a moment when he was hosting an Instameet in Dallas, and my friend Jody Johnston, who started the Pilgrimers, was also doing something similar, and they had come through, but I wasn't like involved yet with the Dallas community. I didn't even know that was a thing. And I think Jody is the one who invented the Instameet, actually. Side note, shout out to Jody. If that's wrong, you guys can Google that and correct me later. Hashtag not fake news. Anyway, so he was coming to Dallas. Corey was coming to Dallas. I just thought, I need to go to this Instameet. I don't know why, but I just really want to go. So I told my sister, you're coming with me. If it sucks, we're leaving. You're my opportunity to leave. I think at the time I had around 300 followers, and I think Corey was like, 100,000 or something crazy. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have so many followers. But we had shared some comments and like started kind of like knowing each other kind of. And I was like, what are the odds he's actually going to know me? So we go to the meet. It's at downtown Dallas at a place called Chicken Scratch. And within the first 5 minutes, he walks over to me and he said, you're Paul, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know my name? He's like, oh yeah, so great to finally meet you. And like I would say that was one of those moments in my life that everything came into realization of what the potential of social media was and what the potential of like the age that we live in can be. And so we went on the rest of that Instameet and made a lot of new friends. Some of them who ended up being featured in the documentary, which I'll talk about in a second. People like Kyle Steed and Brenton Clark, like some of their really original Instagrammers, which is awesome. Started becoming friends with this whole community. So eventually started hosting my own Instameets and my own gatherings, and people started showing up, and the Dallas community was kind of being built, and Instagram was like becoming kind of a bit of a thing, and following was going up, and it's kind of exciting because like, oh my gosh, I'm beginning to make all these new friends, and this is so exciting. And as someone who didn't have friends, I'm like, I think this is like a way to make friends. It's just how my brain worked. And so then in that fake movie trailer class, I ended up hosting an Instameet called #SunriseGramSesh, if you want to look up the hashtag. And I just invited my friends out one morning, partnered with my friend William Meyer. And I just asked people on the spot, randomly came up with it. And I said, fill in the blank. Instagram is blank. And what does that mean to you? And just asked them that quick question. I'm sitting making this little fake trailer and just have such a strong, like, just impression, like, there's more to this story, and for some reason I need to tell it. And I just knew in that moment that I was going to make a whole movie, that this fake movie trailer was no longer just a fake movie, but it was like a real thing. And so I turned in the project, and I learned it was supposed to be a minute trailer. It was more like 3.5 minutes. I should have gotten failed on that project in that moment. Thank you, Kyle Condis. But the whole class like clapped and was like, this was amazing. Like, oh my gosh, like, are you going to make a whole thing? I'm like, I think I'm going to do this. And so the next semester, working at the church full time, now traveling to some cities around the country, I started interviewing people, asking them to tell me their story about like social media and relationship and how they formed not only friendship, but like a life around this opportunity, and just documented my story through the stories of other people. I'm only in the documentary at the very end for the last 5 minutes. But in my whole life, I always wanted to be what people would call like a creative pastor. And I just thought this is like my dream job because I'm creative and I love to like lead people and empower and develop and all these different things. And so working at the church, that job was kind of like, I thought my dream job. And so when I got it when I was 20 years old, I just thought maybe there's more to my life than just this. And maybe I did dream too small. And so during that time, I'm working in the church and this film, the trailer's out there in the world, and I'm working on the main the big documentary. And I get a phone call from a guy named Jeffrey Gerson. And he's like, hi, my name's Jeff and I work at Instagram. I'm like, hi, Jeff. Oh my gosh, wait, what? oh, hi. He's like, oh, sorry, I'm stuck at the San Francisco airport. Sorry, I'm so late to call you. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. What's going on? It's like, we've been watching your trailer and we just want to let you know, like, it's really, really good and we can't wait to see the whole thing. And like, what you're creating is really special to us. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And all of a sudden my brain went, maybe there is more to my life than just this idea that I had of some calling or job, right? And so then the story goes that they ended up promoting it to 85 million people the day that it came out and really launched my career. The thing that they said about it, though, is like, you are putting into words what we've never been able to communicate about Instagram. And I realized in that moment that in my life, like, there's a calling to influence the people who are influencing society, even if that's from an anonymous level. Like, if people never know my name, I don't really care anymore. But I know that there's been these relationships that have come into my life in a really like divine or whatever you want to call it way that have really just opened the door to being friends with people that are doing incredible things that are changing people's lives, and being able to have like a relationship with those kind of people is really a huge opportunity and honor. So Jeffrey is also still one of like a really great friend and someone I really look up to and what he's doing with community in the world, but also with Instagram specifically. And so the documentary came out, and that's how I came to San Diego for the first time. And that's then how I came to be a part of Socality. And so my video career launched, but it also launched really my photography career, which is weird. So this is a long story. There's a lot of these moments. I eventually quit my job at the church and started pursuing Socality and my photography career at the same time. I tell people that there's 4 big moments in my life. The first one is getting the job at the church. The second one's the film. The third one's Socality. And the fourth one is the agency. The story with Socality is a whole nother thing because now I'm living the life that I saw Corey Starlocker living, right? Like, I'm traveling around the country, like hosting these meetups. People know my name. Like, I'm being able to be relational and know these people. And Scott, back when you started Socality, was at the same time working on Socality. No one knew who he was or like what he was doing. He was kind of working secretly at Barnes & Noble, like with this big idea. And he had met some of my friends now, who I had never met, Sammy Easterling and Nicholas St. Germain. And Scott reached out to them and was like, hey, I have this idea. Like, do you guys want to talk to me about this? And they went, oh, no, you should talk to Paul. Like, have you seen this film? And so he watched the documentary, and they gave him my phone number. And one cold day in November, he texted me and he said, hi, I'm Scott, and I'm from Canada, and I have an idea. And I text back, hi, Scott. How did you get my phone number? I was like, really? Some people gave my phone number out without asking me? Oh my gosh. Creepy. But like, honestly, I think a lot of people miss big moments in life because they come in really small packages. And most of these big opportunities came in a random text message, a fleeting email, a random phone call, like all these random things. The agency is another story because it did not come in a small package. It's the first thing in life that like has not been small or seemingly small. And just talking with some friends about this idea of like just stepping into opportunities that are kind of put in your path. I think talking more about this anxiety stuff, like I realized my whole life, anything that I've done with my life, I've never sought out. I have never interviewed for a job that I applied for. I was told to apply for a job and then got the job. And at least at the church, like Socality came to me, Instagram, that just kind of happened. The agency just fell on my lap. Like all this stuff has just kind of come into my path. And even now running in the agency world like I am now, which is another crazy story, another one like really big crazy story, which I do want to tell because it's important. I just initially realized like I was trying to make it happen. I was trying to force new clients. I was trying to force even just like making friends in the city. And there's something when I realized how my anxiety equaled the amount of force I was trying to give to making things happen. And I just saw like, what am I doing? Like, I just need to be faithful with the things that I've been given and serve the clients that I have and really well and do the best that I can and just trust that the next client is going to be there if I need more resources to pay the bills or like pay more staff or whatever it is. And I think that switch alone and just the realization that has been my story and the realization of stopping making things happen has brought all the peace that we've been talking about.
Yes. Oh man, that's just amazing. It's so true that the level of anxiety is very correlated to the level of trying to force things to happen. That's just, again, it's like such a counterintuitive thing, right? But it's widely experienced, I think, by us all. A couple quotes came to mind. One of them, Scott Belsky said that great opportunities never have great opportunity in the subject line. And it's so true, right? It's like that's like how you know it's a great opportunity because it doesn't say it's a great opportunity.
It's true.
But I do want to get to the agency story, but before we get there, I want to circle back and I want to hang out here on Instagram for a little bit. It was interesting. We were watching the trailer before and even a little bit of the film, and it's very interesting seeing it. How long has it been since it came out?
May 24th of 2013. So
okay,
almost 6 years. Almost.
Yeah. So in those 6 years, that's like the amount of things that have changed with social media and specifically even Instagram is just insane to think about what happens in 6 years. Yeah. So much.
Yeah, half a decade.
And some of the comments was really interesting, about like what Instagram's about. And it was very pure in its essence and it was really beautiful. And it's kind of ironic now, right? When you look back on what it has become.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of this quote Eric Hoffer said that every great cause begins as a movement, becomes a business, and eventually degenerates into a racket. And it's just a fascinating process.
Ooh, ouch.
And I'm just curious, like in the last 6 years, even since the film has come out, like what have you seen? Because I think that quote speaks a lot, even to like the trajectory we've seen in social media as a whole. And I don't know where we're at in that between business and racket, but it's definitely at the business phase. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious. So how do you? I guess the question is like, how do you see social media as a tool, or even specifically Instagram as a tool? And I guess the follow up will be like, what do you see the future of social interconnectedness being?
I'm so glad you asked, Thane.
Yes.
I have so many thoughts about this.
I love that.
It's my job,
yes,
partially, so I'm also kind of in the business phase, but also trying to not make it a business. But a lot of people ask me this question. A lot of people, even through the Instagram is days and even today, people go, so what do you think's after social media? Or like, what's the next thing that's going to happen? And I'm like, this is a great question. Instagram and social media, it all began as a way to connect deeper with your friends that you already have and make new friends, right? And I think we lose that so much. I think there's a lot of people who are disillusioned. I have a few friends who just had honestly a deep hatred towards the platform because of whether it's the temptation of what it shouldn't be in their life, or just seeing the effects of it on other people's lives. And so I think a lot of people have just steered clear in a large way, whether that's taking the seasons of deleting the app or making a big deal about deleting the app and like taking a break, which I'm not necessarily for that. I'm like, if you're going to take a break, just take a break. We don't need to know that you're taking a break. That's a whole nother pet peeve of mine. But I think there's the tension of recognizing that this tool exists, embracing that we have the opportunity to use it, but we don't just need to throw it out altogether because there's bad things about it. There are now bad things about it. There wasn't initially. There was some like security issues about like meeting new people and all that stuff, which were along with it. But now there's the whole like cracking under pressure, I think that a lot of people are feeling, and even like the world record egg, if we want to talk about that for a second. Do you know the world record egg?
No.
Wow. Really?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So there was I forget which photo it was, but the most liked photo on Instagram ever was by some celebrity. It's not Kardashian. It's Selena Gomez. You guys can correct
Probably.
me. And this some account, no one still knows who it is. We think they're in London. They started an account where they were trying to get the most likes with this photo of an egg, and it broke the likes like super in a couple days, right? And it was like a big deal. Like, right, you have this huge account now. They have like multi-million follower accounts that happen kind of overnight, right? And I think either they had a plan before or they made a plan. But it's like, now what do we do with this influence that we have? And of all the new accounts that have started to much acclaim like that, usually fall to bits really quick. I think of like things like SoCality Barbie as one of those things. I know it's something different, but it's similar. Like it starts with like specific motivation, then it grows, and then it just kind of gets worse. But egg specifically has been a really cool thing that I think is notating a big shift in social media, because I've seen it happen in a lot of other friends' accounts as well. So they did the post. They had the big following, the big egg. It was everywhere. Everyone's talking about the egg. People have tattoos of eggs now. Like we're that far into it. The hashtag egg gang. PS.
When did this happen?
Like 2 weeks ago.
What?
Yeah, this is like super recent.
Wow.
And so then they started posting photos of the egg cracking over time, slowly. And they were making a big deal. Then on Super Bowl Sunday, we're going to announce this new thing. And this video comes out on Super Bowl Sunday of the egg cracking, and it turning into opening a conversation about like mental health and social media and cracking under pressure and all these different things. And a day before that, one of my friends, Matt Bauer, who runs a boutique agency in Venice called Rosewood, he kind of came out similarly talking about just the pressure that social media has put on creatives or just people in general to live a life of a big show, and how that like isn't a way to live, and the pressure is just all consuming. Like I think we're getting to that point where people can't take it anymore. Yeah. Like they can't fake it any longer. And I think that's the season of life we're in as a society. Like there can be no more faking. And if you do, you know it because you get worn out and anxious by it. And so like him, for example, is doing this now. Like he's changed the way that entirely how he posts and how he interacts. He's like, no, this is about connection. This isn't about my art. So when I come back to the basics of Instagram, it is connection. The bottom line is it is about connecting and turning it into real life encounters, which is, I mean, that's how me and you met. Yeah. In some way, really. We were originally friends on Instagram, and it became then like a in real life thing, IRL. And I think more people don't see that as an opportunity, whether that's within the church world, and like reaching out and touching people and like being able to like really be there for people. It's just become a way to like put on a show and like, here's how great my life is. And we say at SoCality, like there's two different reasons that people follow you. It's either here I am or there you are. And here I am is all about me. And there you are was all about inviting people into the story of this, right? And I think more than not, we have a lot of here I am people on Instagram and just social media in general. Like, look at my life. Look how great it is. It's not inviting people into the story and into even inviting yourself into their story. And I think that's a big thing that people first knew me for. Because when the film came out, like a lot of people, I mean, I wasn't doing it to make money. People ask me, how do I get started in the creative world? I say, work on a project that doesn't make you money, but that you're passionate about. And if it ends up making you money, great, but let that not be the motivation. And so when people first encountered me, it was about relationships, it was about community, and so and connection. And so it set me up to be that person for the community as a whole. And people started coming to me to be friends and just like have a relationship and like get to know somebody and like talk with somebody or whatever, or like ask for prayer or whatever it is. And it just became a real opportunity for me where I can't see it any other way than that. Even like doing influencer marketing stuff always felt a little bit off to me. Going, why am I doing this? Like, why am I trying to monetize something that is just naturally about friendship? Right? And I think we've just taken it because now the opportunity is there and we can make money at it. Not necessarily the good money, right? I did it for 3 years. I didn't make like any money. Yeah. Though people thought I did, which I should tell people I didn't. I did not make really any money, you guys. Thank you to my parents for helping me through those seasons. Yeah. And so I think we're in a moment of like revealing the pressure that we've all lived under and being honest about it and being human, and moving into like a new era of how we use it. And I that's what I am stepping into myself, and what I hope to encourage other people to step into too. So if I were to project what I think the next wave of social media is, I would say it would be not only connection but impact. I think if we can come together as a society, as connected as we are, to actually impact our communities through these tools, that's where social media should go. Because then there's a motivating purpose to come together around. If not, if community for community's sake is meaningless, right? Community wrapped around a purpose actually has impact. And I think too many people chase community when they should be chasing purpose. And community is a byproduct. It's a benefit of your purpose. It's not the main focus of life. And so tying that in with impact, I think will just bring great purpose. That's where I want to talk about what's on my sweatshirt, which you guys can't see.
Yes.
I'm interested to share about it more, but I know you have a question.
No, I want to hear about this. I've loved the sweatshirt. I love great graphic tees or hoodies or anything. And he's wearing a sweatshirt that says "Live on Purpose," and "Purposity USA" is the slogan logo. So tell me about it, because we didn't get to chat about this much beforehand.
So this, if I was to say what's next, I think it's this. And what's funny is it's marked on the App Store as social media, which is funny, but they're actually a client of mine. This is totally not like a free promo shout out, but I worked with them. Chose to work with them specifically because I believed in what they're doing, and I think that people need to use the internet like this. So his name, Blake Canterbury, is the one who founded Purposity, and he, again, like my life, we met through Instagram.
Nice.
Through a string of other Bazillion people, through another musician that I know who connected me with Blake, who connected me with it. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So he ended up coming on a Circality trip with us because I invited him, and we became really good friends. And I started working, like kind of volunteering for his company. I'll tell you what it is in a second. So when the agency came around, he was kind of one of the first thoughts I thought, like, why don't we just like make this official and like actually work together? And so it was a pretty cool thing. We just kind of like stumbled into a client relationship.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. They're one of my favorite clients for sure. And so Purposity, the basic idea is if you knew your neighbor had a need, you would meet it. But the issue is you don't know the need, much less verifiable that it's a real need that will have impact on their life. Right? So what they've done on a very like bottom line scale is connected with local agencies, school districts, nonprofits, social workers, whatever it is, government officials, to aggregate these needs in a community. Whether that's, when I say needs, I mean like if that's a student in school doesn't have shoes and the teacher notices it, they fill the need of shoes. If it's like a family's house burned down, they help not only rebuild the house, but actually like come together as a community to now fill the house with all this stuff. And so it actually is localized impact around, localized impact around generosity. So purpose and generosity equals Purposity. So they are in 50 cities, and they've met 13,000 needs in the first year and a half, and 8,000 of those have been in the last 6 months. Just incredible opportunities coming their way. But I think this whole idea of like giving back and generosity around connecting together is huge. So the cool thing with this is you every Monday you get a message that says, here's the needs for the week. And it's a race to the bottom to meet them in your local community, right? So you see the need, you read the story about it, and then you buy it right in the app, and it ships it straight to the person. And then you get not only notification like they've now received your thing, but you get a note back from them, and sometimes a picture depending on the ability of the social worker's iPhone.
Yeah.
But I think things like this are harnessing the power of our connectivity and what we can do when we come together. And I think we need more platforms like that are actually like rallying us as people and humans to come together around purpose. And the people in this community are really, becoming close because of the like physical impact you're having on someone's life. That's like, I know my $17 went exactly to give this kid a bed. It wasn't just $17 into a pot somewhere, right? Anyways, like I think something like that's really relational but really impactful is where social media is going, and honestly should go.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think what you had to say about impact and purpose is everything, because again, like, and community is both like a result, but it's also a fuel for all of that,
That's
right?
true.
Like we can't do anything on our own, so it's not only like a byproduct, but it's also the fuel to the flame that adds to the impact that we're able to have, because we're always better together. And that's part of the purpose of social media in that sense, is connecting people in that sense, to form that community, to have that impact.
Right now it's isolating.
Yeah,
completely.
Yes, and that's what's interesting, is that I think that's also what God calls us to, not to be not to be of the world, but to be in the world, right? And that's a part of it, is like, be in the world but not of the world, is meaning like it's not about isolating away from what's going on. It's about redeeming what's going on and using it for good. And we all have the ability to do that. We all have the ability to redeem something for good, and to take actions to do that, because it always takes actions, individual actions, before it's collective actions.
That was the original intention of Sociality, is really to redeem the social space, to make it something impactful for the community, not just like ethereal creativity, but like actually do something together. Yeah,
I love it. And that's the thing. Like, I think that's what's important for people listening, and for all of us to remember, is that, like we were talking about before, we always hear the loudest people. And usually the loudest people are not the majority of people on both sides. Yeah. And so when you hear of these cool things going on, understand that there's room for more cool things going on, more impactful, purposeful things to be done, right? Yeah. So if you have those ideas, do them. Like, bring them into the world, test them, and some will fail and some won't. And that's the point. That's part of life. But just to the flip side, like, all of the sucky, bad things that go on in social media are, again, a part of the outliers. Like, look, like, let's not be overwhelmed by the negativity and the complete destruction that it can cause, and let's not also be overwhelmed by, feeling like, oh, everyone's already doing everything anyways. No, like, both of those aren't true. There's needs for more good, and there needs to be understood that there are people doing that, and it's not just all bad. And so I think those perspectives can help us embrace it and use it for good, and not just completely reject it, because it's an integral part of life now. I mean, it's changed modern society and will forever change the way we live and connect.
One of the questions I ask people, a lot of clients, is why are you on social media? Like, as a basis, when we start working together, I was having a meeting this week actually with a potential new client, and I said, what's your purpose? Why are you going to use this? Is it to get more people to come to your events, or is it to actually like promote the ideals and the vision that you want to rally people behind, regardless of whether they come to your thing or not? I think that's like the hardest thing for people, is to let go of control of like making your business successful. And I think when you get away from the success of your account, like, all of a sudden you're actually be able to make an impact.
Yes. I mean, that's so true with a business too. Like, if you do a business to make money, it's not a good business.
That's cliche and overdone.
Yeah, it really is. But it says, I mean, come on, this is like, there's nothing new under the sun. It really, it repeats itself over and over again, and we see it all over the place. One thing though, so yeah, it's just interesting to me, circling back even to the bubble popping in a lot of ways, right? Because I think we've talked a lot about the different bubble pops moments of life, but some of those things, even like the modern society of not only the social interconnectedness, but the ability to have cultural interconnectedness, meaning the ability to travel in modern society, is something within the last, 30, 40 years.
Still mind-boggling.
Insane, right? We can go anywhere in the world virtually.
Wait for that Hyperloop from Elon Musk, right?
Insane. I mean, I guess, what would be the way that you think what is the most helpful way to think about, I guess, interconnectedness in that sense? Like, because there's a tension there. The big tension there is and we've had different people on the show that are on different places in that tension, right? Of people that go through seasons of literally no community, because they're just all over the world experiencing the different cultures. And there's some good in that, and there's also some bad in that, just as much as there is to living in one place your whole life, which was the norm for most of the past 2,000 years, So yeah. I'm just curious, like, how you think through the tension of not only social but cultural interconnectedness, or ability to experience all that modern society has.
I think some of it comes to capacity. I have I've been honored and blessed to have friends all over the world now because of things like social media and the ability to travel and all those things. And for a long time, I just got caught up in trying to be friends with everybody and try to like maintain and like care for relationships all the time. But really, like my relational structure was flipped upside down, where the people furthest away from me was the people I needed the most love and acceptance from. The people closest to me, I like gave the burnt ends to, basically. And there was a shift in that that caused just really even more, since I've moved, just a deep desire for roots, and not settling down in the sense of stopping putting out the fire, but like settling down and like investing into a community, into a city, really, and choosing it. I think that's the thing. Like, I don't know where I necessarily want to like land that question specifically. It's kind of a crazy question I've never been asked before. But I think I can relate it to a metaphor or just the physical reality of San Diego. People who live in the city itself are very uprooted and very transient, as the slang word, the like hot word for it. But they are moving is always on the table for them. I could be in San Diego today, but next week I could move halfway across the country, and I want to leave my options open. And I think commitment and choosing to be where you are is a challenge because you risk missing out on something else, right? And I think it's maybe it was Scott Harrison from Charity Water. He has this thing called JOMO, joy of missing out. And I just thought that is so good. Like, I think really a lot of the traveling and the interconnectedness and not settling is really just fear of commitment. And so what's interesting is in life here now, I spend a lot of my time in North County, a little bit further north, because people are seeming more settled. They've been invested in the community for a long time, and they have roots here. And I think people are just naturally drawn to that. And so since being a part of that, I've been seeing more and more people from down in the city, down in San Diego, like making their way north, whether moving there or just being around people from north, because there is more of a stability about them. And people are drawn to stability.
Dude, it's so true. I think at the core of everything is commitment. And anything that is good typically has fear around it because it's some of it's counterintuitive, right? Or some of it's scary because it requires sacrifice. It requires a loss of something. But like nothing is free. Nothing comes without a cost. There's always opportunity cost. So we have to understand that there is fear around commitment, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. And there's actually more benefit from that commitment. And commitment is what forms community. And that's what builds the roots, which leads and fuels sustainability, right? And at the end of the day, like, that's discipline, because discipline's saying no to the short-term reward, the quick hit, the pleasure of the moment, to say yes to the long-term delayed gratification, the slow, painful process of growth that produces sustainable results. And dude, it's just like, this is all throughout. It's crazy. Like, that's just everywhere.
People aren't okay with being in process. And I think that's even social media plays to that. All of life plays to that right now. Like, people want to have finality about things. And this is something that has been really, I mean, a hard reality for me to face. And I think a lot of people have wrestled with that reality themselves. So I think the way that I put it, I don't know how I want to say this correctly, just so I like accurately talk about it. But like, people might be wrestling with something like internally or like in life, an addiction or whatever it is. And eventually they get to a place of just accepting the fact that I'm this way. And whether that's like, I'm an alcoholic and I'm just always going to be an alcoholic. And sometimes putting a finality on that, even like the phrase "my truth," at some level is like isn't necessarily truth, but it's more fact of like, this is just where I'm at in life, and this is just the fact of reality. It might not be truth in 5 years, but right now it's just fact in my life. And so people want to put a period on things and give finality to it and not be in process because of pain. They're afraid of pain. And so social media has largely been people's interpretation of people's final thoughts about topics, and not in process ideas. And so people take all their things as like, well, this is just who you are because you talked about it. And even I've seen that here in the city, like, people talk about potentially moving. And as soon as people talk about moving, people write them off immediately that,
Yeah.
oh, you're moving.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah.
Like, people don't allow people to be in process, even
Yeah.
singleness and marriage, right?
Yeah.
People, once you're single, got to get dating. Then you got to engage, then married. Once you're married, you got to have babies. When you're going to have a second baby, like,
Yeah.
people never are okay with you being where you're at. They want you to be
Yeah.
the next thing already.
Yeah, it's again not definitive but descriptive, right? Descriptive of a point in time, not a final like home or landing place. It's not definitive of that.
I don't think we'll get there until we die.
We won't. Yeah, it just repeats itself. So you embrace that beautiful process of growth, and it's cyclical. It repeats itself, but the cycles hopefully will be leveling up with growth.
Hope so.
And there's a great quote, actually, Diego Simula. He, I think a Hillsong pastor, he said that forward progress is not a finished process. And I'm like, amen to that. You know, it's just so good.
One of the quotes, you throw out all these quotes all the time. I feel like I need to throw out all my favorite
let's go.
quotes.
Let's go.
One of my favorite quotes of all time that changed my life. No pressure. One of my favorite authors is John Eldredge. Some people hate him, some people love him, whatever. I like John Eldredge. I literally had a conversation.
Polarizing.
I had a conversation in my house with someone who's like, I really don't like John Eldredge. And I'm like, well, have you ever read Wild at Heart? It's so good. Just kidding, but it really did happen. There's a quote in this book. Sometimes he's like, when I'm wanting to hear from God, I just go to a bookstore and pick up a random book and just like, if it makes sense, it makes sense. If not, then whatever. He pulled out this book, and the quote is, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and go do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And it made me realize, like, all of my life I've been trying to do things that I think people want me to do, not what I actually am good at that make me come alive. Because that's what actually people need from me. They don't need all of the other phony expectation, false self. Anyways, there's my quote.
Be you. You be you. You do you, and I'ma do me, as they say.
Well, actually, what's funny about that is what I tell to clients all the time. My number one rule is be human.
Yeah.
If you're a brand, if you're a person, be a human there in that space. Don't be a robot. Have a face. Anyways.
Yeah. I love it. So, dude, man, I want to talk all night, but I will spare people listening, and I want to circle back to a few more loose ends before we move to the one-offs at the end. But so one of them is before we get to the AG story, I want to hear, because this is something that I'm just not familiar. I think other people listening are the same way. So, what is SoCality now? Like, I think that's always the floating question is like, what is SoCality? I mean, like, it's like, sounds awesome, it looks awesome, but what is it?
The three questions I get asked most in my life, Thane, are, what is SoCality? How do I get involved, in that order? And what do you actually do for a living? Nonstop for the past 5 years of my life, people ask me, what is SoCality? More than anything else I know in the world, people just refuse to have an understanding of it for some reason.
It's like there's chosen ignorance.
Even though we can talk about it a bazillion times, people go, what is it again? I'm just like, oh gosh.
There's something about the name that like is so intriguing, I think, that whatever the definition is that you give, like, the name is just too intriguing to accept that, I feel like.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, a testament to a great branding and title. I mean, that's amazing. But
ambiguity was our strength in the beginning, but it's been our downfall in some ways in the middle here.
Unforeseen costs.
Right. I mean, there's all those crazy things that start like super mysterious and cool, and you don't actually know what it is, but you want to be a part of it. And that was like SoCality in the beginning. We all knew what it was.
Yeah.
And that is like morphed as we've really gotten a download of where this is really going. But we're actually hosting a San Diego event on February 23rd. If you're listening to this and you want to come, it's going to be awesome. But it has shifted and changed over the years. Originally, how it began was really in a Christian sense. It was amplifying the message of the gospel and coming together as like believers and seeing the power we have as like a large gathering of people across digital society and physical society, and turning that into like real life relationships. But as we've grown, as we've seen the greater impact we can have is actually to create less of a definitive Christian space and more of a space of questioning. Our team are Christians, but we don't necessarily want to force it on people. And a lot of people have problems with that, whether you're Christian or not. What's funny is when we came out and we posted in all the stuff in the big heyday of Socality in the early days, which it's still people. What's funny, people like our events still like sell out craziness. It's like I love that people are still stoked on what Socality's doing. But we came out and not people who weren't Christian said, this is too cool to be Christian. And Christians said, you're not Christian enough.
Yeah.
And so like our whole life talking about tension has the whole life of Socality has been that tension of like, how do we exist in both of those realms and not like do a disservice to either? And I think companies like the Giving Keys are a great example, which you have a lot of experience with, obviously. They're very much like a sister company to us in the way that we think. A lot of it started as like with Christian foundation and lifestyle and principles, and it's morphed into having like a large impact that people see. And so to answer your question about what Socality is, at the bottom line, it's creative community. Really, it's coming together on purpose to tell stories that matter. And so there's a lot of exciting news that we will be announcing shortly, but the main focus is we're launching cities. So initially we launched states, which we learned was great, but didn't really have the impact that we were looking for. And so now our focus is to like not try to expand to the whole world tomorrow. It's to take the small steps and do the small, like sometimes unseen task of like launching a city and actually being there for a while and caring about the community and not just coming and leaving. And the cool thing is people were always, they came to Socality events, but they also existed as Socality in their cities, which was one of the original ideas as well. Like, when is Socality coming to my city? Well, you're there. Go and be Socality to your city. Like, connect and bring the creatives together and do like tell stories that matter and do things on purpose together. And so launching cities, I think, is going to really solve a lot of those problems to have people on the ground. So San Diego, that's me. I'm leading the team here, and we just had our 5th birthday. So at that event in Calgary, we launched the Calgary community as well. There's a couple other cities coming online that I won't tell you about yet. But I think a lot of our model is going to shift more towards like, how can we actually not only connect these people together, but actually enable creatives to step into all these opportunities, right? And doing that for good. So there's some synergy with some other companies that we're talking about. So we'll see what happens. And I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about.
Yes.
I'm always the one who doesn't talk. And then Scott goes around and tells everyone everything. And I'm going, Scott, just tell me what I can tell people.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So just be on the lookout. But at the bottom line, really, like, Socality is a place to come and exist with other people who are like you and actually feel like you all really are friends. That's been the exciting thing about Socality from the very beginning. People just wanted to be there because they weren't coming to learn something. They were coming to make friends. And I think that's the difference between all these other creative communities. Like, you have these awesome other like creative instances in San Diego even, but you go there to learn creativity, which we're also teaching and educating and developing and all that stuff. But people come from halfway around the world because they want to have friends. Yeah. Like, people are desperate for connection, and Socality has been able to give people that opportunity.
That's legit. I love it. Now if you don't know, now you know. All right.
don't ask me anymore.
Never
Just kidding.
again.
You can ask me tomorrow.
If you ask him, he will say, "Listen to this."
Well, I mean, to our I guess defense or offense. It has changed and morphed over the years, so people have always had a lot of questions like, what are you doing again? Anyways.
Yeah, you've adapted to the time. So the agency, so this seems like the culmination of this creative journey and this process.
My life.
My life up to now. Yes. We the Able.
Well, it's actually called Able Creative House, but that's okay.
But the hashtag or the Instagram is called We the Able, right?
Yeah, that's the slogan.
So that's all that matters. No,
I love it. People have gotten behind it too, which is cool.
Yeah, it's a cool I like that slogan for sure.
And we need t-shirts.
Nice. I'm gonna have to get one.
Swag bags.
Nice.
I should do that actually. Yeah.
Wait, swag bags?
Yeah, like we've talked about like little like totes or something.
I like that.
You know, like enable people.
It reminded me of high school. We would hand out swag bucks to people at school. So. Fun fact, we were the swag police.
Yeah, boy?
Yeah, so we handed out swag fines and swag bucks. Fun fact.
I'm learning so much about you.
Yeah, so back to Able House.
We know enough about you, Thane, okay?
Yeah, I know.
I do care, though, actually. I wish I could reverse this interview and ask you a bunch of questions.
In another life, maybe.
In another life. Whenever I apparently start a podcast.
Yeah, I know. What's it going to be called?
Story listening.
Wow. Okay, you heard it here first.
That's my moniker.
Story listening with Technopol.
Hey.
Okay. So Abel,
Yeah, what do you want to know?
I want to know about the origins. Before that, though, this was a question I had earlier. What did you want to be when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I kind of alluded to it and also talked about it. I wanted to be a doctor initially.
Yeah, that was a dream as a kid.
Mostly, I think my mom told me I'd be a good doctor.
Yeah.
Because of my bedside manner and like my technical like OCDness.
Yeah.
And so that was not, they never forced any like specific career on me. My dad was actually a baseball player and was drafted by the Yankees out of high school.
Yeah.
To pitch. And so like sports was a big part of my childhood, and I grew up playing baseball with my dad. But learned like sports wasn't necessarily the thing that I wanted to do with my life. It was a thing that I did with my dad, and I loved that. But the creative arts and business and entrepreneurship was like, I guess I learned was more like my lane in life.
Yeah.
Music, all that stuff. And so it went from being wanting to be a doctor to I wanted to be a chef for a while, like maybe a couple months. I wanted to go to culinary school because I loved food, but I learned I didn't like preparing food for other people. And then I wanted to be an architect for a day. Then learn how long it takes to become an architect and make your own designs. And then just finally succumbed and realized, like, I think I'm just going to be an all-around creative and just do things.
The whole architect, like, I feel like so many people are like, architect would be awesome. No. like no. That's how it happens.
I have a friend in town who's actually becoming an architect and finishing school, and, like, it's an incredible process to watch him go through. Like, it is so difficult.
Jeez.
Shout out to all the architects on all your hard work.
So a lot of, I don't know if you mentioned this before the interview or during it, but a lot of your creative projects and process have been self-generated in some ways. They've been kind of put in front of you and then you've gone forward with them. Yeah. But this one was kind of just handed to you, right?
Fully.
Talk to me about that experience or how that came about. And it's been, what, a year or two now?
A year in March.
2019.
It came around March 2018.
So talk to me about the experience of how, or what happened, what transpired, and then like how you've been able to... Pun intended, unintentionally. Intended unintentionally. It's late, folks. And talk to me about how you have seen the creative journey prepare you well for this role.
Taking a breath before I get into the story. So I mentioned it earlier. I grew up wanting to be a creative pastor. That was kind of the and what I landed on wanting to be in my life. There was a guy named Gabe Smith he hired me as a lighting designer for the first time at a church I was at in Dallas, and I looked up to him immensely, and he was a creative pastor. So I just thought, well, I would like Gabe, and I want to be like Gabe, so obviously I'm going to be a creative pastor. So I just kind of went with that for my life. And so when the job at the church came around, I just thought, okay, this is that role for me. Obviously it's not the role I'm doing anymore, and thankfully I'm glad for my time there, but also kind of just became monotonous and boring. And I always knew there was something else coming. And so the culmination of all this is really just finding my way back home, kind of. And so I'd been in the creative world and photography and all that stuff for a long time, and I'd been 3 years full-time freelance, and just was kind of getting frustrated, to be honest, and realizing like, man, this photography thing is great, but it's not coming with ease. Like there's awesome opportunities, but I'm not making a living at this. And if I'm going to actually like want to like get married and have kids and like do all this stuff, like this isn't going to be able to continue this way. And I love this, but also, do I want to be remembered as a photographer? I don't know if that's like what my life is supposed to be. And I'm grateful for the opportunities as they are now, and that has like brought me into this place that I am, but I don't think that's what I want to be with my life. And so oddly enough, I took 6 months off photography without even knowing I took 6 months off. I didn't take a photo for that long. And it just kind of hit me between the eyes, like, man, maybe something's got to change, I think. And so at our Socality camp last year, we have Socality camps every other year that we host like a creative weekend in the mountains, and we hike and explore and learn and make friends. It's great. We also dance a lot. There's a video out there of me dancing on top of a van at Socality camp. So if you sign up for Socality camp 2019, you might get to experience this. Side note, we won't link that in the show notes.
But maybe.
But maybe. If you guys ask really nicely. So we were at Socality camp, and one of the people there she worked for Travel Alberta for their tourism board there. And we became friends, and we just started having conversations about kind of starting our agency potentially. She had stepped out of her role there, and she kind of was acting like an agent even for me as a photographer. And so we had kind of those early conversations about becoming our own agency. And I just thought, that sounds awesome. Like, I love what I'm doing, but like the idea to connect people and help them find jobs, like, makes sense for me. And so, on the seemingly same track, but different track at the same time, we also take SoCal to Israel trips. And we do these trips to Israel with like influential leaders and volunteers in our world, in our like SoCality world. And one of the guys who came with us in 2017 is a guy named Parker Green. And him and Scott went to school together in Australia, and so they were like good friends. And he and his wife were pastors at a church in New York called Liberty Church, and they had just moved to Huntington to plant this new church called Salt Church. Shout out to Salt Church, you guys are great. And he came on the trip under that guise of being a pastor in Huntington, and we became friends pretty quickly, and just like kind of really fell in love with him and his wife and what they're doing. And he kind of became like a really, really dear friend of mine. And so as I was looking to move here, I was looking for work. So he's a personal trainer, and his wife owned an agency. And me and her, I don't even know if we had met at this point, but I was just looking for work, and I was like, you know what? I should ask Jessie if she has any work. So I sent her an email. I was like, hey, do you have any work that I might be able to do with you monthly? And she said, yeah, maybe like $200 worth. I'm like, every dollar counts, you know? And I think I can. I'm wondering how upfront I want to be about like specific dollars, because there's some crazy like equals. What I'll tell you though is that I made a budget of what I needed to make a month to live in California, which seemed a bit out there for me.
Yes.
And I said, okay, X dollars is what I need to make to live here. No, I even put cents, 0 cents. XXX 0 cents. And I just went, okay, this is what I need to make, and I'm going to go look for work now. This is before I moved, and so I just started looking for work. And that was December of 2017, and it was that October that I had the conversation about the agency. And so started looking for work. Jessie said, $200. I'm like, great, weird, crazy. That's probably not going to work, but sure, everything counts. I'll get a job at a coffee shop and make it work. Mm-hmm. And so in January, on the 22nd of January, yes, I also remember the date. Recurring theme, I'm realizing.
Lives on.
It lives on. She gave me a call, and I was actually in San Antonio speaking at a leadership summit thing. And she said, hey, like, I know this is kind of out of the blue and kind of random, but like, I really needed to call you today. I have this offer for you, and I just really need to talk to you. I was like, okay, what's going on? She's like, so as you know, like Parker, my husband, he just like quit his personal training job to go back full time with the church, and he's doing support raising and like doing the whole thing because he really feels like that's where he's supposed to be. And if I'm honest, I should have done this 6 months ago, and I just never did. And so now I've just been like prayerfully considering this transition and what it all looks like. And obviously I need to do this and like go back full time in the church. But she's like, so I've been praying and your name keeps coming up, and I feel like I'm supposed to give you my agency. I'm on the phone with her going, what? Wait, are you serious? What are the liabilities? Oh my gosh, what? And so she starts talking me through all of this in January of last year of 18. And she started it 4.5 years ago at the time. It's now 5.5 years ago in New York City when they were pastors, tight on cash like most people in New York, right? And she had this dream in the middle of the night, and she just felt like she woke up that morning and said, I need to start an agency. She started the agency. By the weekend, she had a client. And in 6 months, she had 8 to 10 clients and staff. And like it became this amazing like resource and launching pad, not only for her, obviously now quitting and moving into what she's doing, but all of her contractors and staff that she worked with. Like it became a launching pad for all of them. And so just looking at the heritage and the legacy of what this company had been and stepping into it, I went, oh my gosh, like what an opportunity. So all in that same phone call, she's telling me all this. It was originally in the fashion world specifically. And she tells me her current clients, all right, she had 2 kids and she's starting this church. So she pulled everything back to autopilot. So she had 2 clients and just her. She's doing everything. One was a project client. One was a like retainer monthly client. And the project client was like, unreliable. Well, the project client was dollar for dollar what I put on my budget spreadsheet to need to move to California. So in one fell swoop, not only am I getting back into the job that I originally dreamed of as a middle schooler, like this creative pastor mentality, but also I know I'm going the right direction because now I have all the money I need to be able to actually live in California. And my mind is like blown. I'm going, how is this real? Like this is the first opportunity in my life that looks huge. And like someone's giving me a company. Like this isn't just a one-time gift. It's a gift that's going to keep giving for the life of the business. So I was January, March, I stepped in full-time at the agency and didn't realize at first it was going to become my job. I thought it was just going to be, I had this side client that I also did all my photography with, and I'm able to still do photography, which I'm still kind of doing. And a few months in, I realized, I think I'm really supposed to do this full-time. Like not only I'm supposed to, but I want to. Like this, I'm really getting passionate about this. Like this makes a lot of sense for me. Dots are kind of connecting. And so I had a friend who I was working on a website client with actually at the time. Outside of that, I did websites as Technopal for a while and still do, but under the agency now. And I was driving to Austin, and he lived in Austin. He's a painter. His name is Tyler Buck Gwynn. He's awesome at Tyler Buck Gwynn. He's incredible if you ever need painting. And I was going down to meet with him and work on this website stuff and just like connect, because we had never actually met in person, which is crazy. We had worked like 6 months together, which is also the story of Socality. Me and Scott didn't meet for 6 months until Socality started.
Wow.
After Socality started, lots of risks in my life, you know. And so I show up and we get in a room, and after we meet and we start like working on these things, and we slowly realize like, number one, you need to be part of the agency. Number two, we need to rebrand the agency and make this a real thing. So all in 24 hours, it was originally NYC Collective, the name of the agency, and we rebranded in that day to Able Creative House. And because we were brand people, we fully did everything in 24 hours, which is awesome. The logo, the type, the copy, almost the whole website even. And that it's just been an incredible journey since. So now we house 3 clients monthly and kind of retainer clients along with that. But really my passion with it, and what I gained vision for in that moment in that house with Tyler, was really to create a table for creators and businesses alike to sit at. One where the creator isn't just the only word I can use because it's dramatic, but it makes the point, like whoring themselves out for free product. Like they just take advantage of the clients to get free things in their life. I'm like, that is not any way to value a business. Mind you, the business has been no better to not value the artist's creative ability, right? And I go like, if we could live in a world where both those things are valued and they're both seen as potential great business, like I think we could actually create really marketing strategies and plans and like stories that are actually legacy building and not just noise. And I think that's becoming a common conversation with all my clients. We don't want to create noise. We want to create intentional and intention behind every post. Everything needs to have a purpose of why are we sharing this? Okay, green light, go. Not just to get things out there to sell product, but to actually make something that causes people to think or causes them to cry or causes them to enjoy life, whatever it is. Yeah. So that's a bit of the story with the agency. But the incredible thing is, since that point, even in Jessie's life, there's been some incredible stories. Like for her, after her second kid, she had all of this hospital debt. And a month after she gave away this business, right, giving away like your livelihood, basically, all of her, the hospital paid off all of her baby debt. It was like multi-$1,000 debt that they had. I think I can talk about this because they've talked about it, but just like incredible to see just the reverberation of impact that this business alone has had on people's lives. I'm like, oh, what am I stepping into? So we'll see where it goes and where it takes it. But this has like been a huge opportunity in my life.
That's incredible. Yeah. I'm excited to see where it goes. It's going to be, it's just a wild ride. Like, I think that's the beauty of walking by faith. But in light of that, in looking at the future and looking at the vision of what's ahead, what is your dream now? I think that's one thing that I've had other people in your community, like, I'd love to know, like, what is Paul's dream? What is before him in life? What is the vision? What's next? What's that thing you're pushing toward?
Oh, so many things. My mission in life, and I always tell it to myself because it just keeps me centered around what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, is to connect people with people and connect people with God, and by creating spaces and environments. And so for me, that relates to any situation that I'm in. So I knew moving here, if I'm a barista, I can still fulfill my mission in life by being in that space, because I can be friends with people and connect people. Like, it doesn't matter necessarily what I do as a base level for answering that question. Totally. That's the baseline. From there, like, I'm realizing most of my life is I've been surrounded by idea people. And I've realized I'm an idea person, but also not an idea person. I love ideas, and I love people that are idea people. And I've obviously had a lot of ideas, but not a lot of ideas I actually want to like take a chance on. And there has been an idea I've been sitting on for about 2 years ish, more maybe, that I think is really meaningful for me. And a lot of it stems around the idea of disconnection and solitude and connection and all those things, and just helping people create healthy rhythms of that. And creating what I want to do with my life is create spaces for people to really find connection, and however that happens. So a lot of that looks for me right now through writing, speaking, and potentially stepping into music in a greater way. I think that's one thing that people have been asking me about. Well, not asking me about. I put out there into the world. I put this post out in January. Actually, I put it out on January 22nd too, didn't I? This January 22nd is like a big date apparently in my life. I put out there, I was like, I'm working on something new, and I have all these like ideas and things in the works, and I honestly feel like I haven't stewarded all of my talents well. And I think music is one of those things that has not been stewarded as well as it could be. And similar to like an idea we were talking about earlier, but it's like something in me can't not let it out anymore. And like, I can't hold back letting me be me at the fullest extent. And so like there's a community here that we're writing and singing and playing music every week. And we're talking about albums, and we're talking about like, not for the sake of music or not for the sake of money. But I'm realizing like for me in my life, it's been for the sake of just doing it for myself. Yeah. But without ever needing it for a platform, or even caring if anyone ever hears music that I write or sing. I've been writing and singing my whole life. It doesn't matter to me, really. It's just like I can't not write or just put it out there in the world and just see what happens. I have to give it its fair shot. So music is a part of that, and I think it's kind of the sound at which the ideas will go forth. The first, the song that people know from me in the community right now is called "Letting Go." And we were talking about all these things, right? This idea of letting go. So as you're talking about it too, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've wrote a song called this. Like, this is crazy. And I'm realizing like my message, I think a lot is going to come through song, but it also will come through moments like this, like speaking and talking with people about their ideas and like sharing my own ideas. So I think there's some of that, and just like taking bigger risks. Yeah.
Do you have a word of the year?
Failure.
I love that. Oh, yes.
It's really just like focusing my ear to realize that I'm going to fail. Yeah. And it's okay. Yeah. But you need to take more shots. You need to take bigger, riskier shots.
Shoot your shot, bro.
So I haven't failed yet on any like big projects necessarily. I don't think so. But like taking risks, like something like music, I know. You know what? If this fails, it's fine. You know what? Because I all that matters is that you took the chance. Yes. And focusing it towards like negative was just oddly how I needed to do it this year. Yeah. So,
I love that.
Did you have a word for the year?
I did. I do. And it scared me, and it still does.
Past and present tense.
Open. Oof. And actually, when you said song, that's what made me think of it, because the song "Open Space."
We sing that every Tuesday.
I literally am like having that on repeat. It's so just good. like literally I'm driving around like LA with this song on repeat just because I know I need it. It's like, yeah, so it's been great. Excited to see what the rest of the year holds, but it's already been off to a banging start in a lot of ways. So.
I love that.
Okay, just a few more one-offs. So I just have to, these I asked a lot of the guests because I'm gonna fall asleep soon, even though I want to stay up all night. Unfortunately, my body just can't hang with these young pups. Because one other thing I heard about you is that you're the Energizer Bunny.
What?
Yeah.
Who said that?
This is quote unquote. This is verbatim. He has lasting energy. He can find it inside him to be the Energizer Bunny, depending on the situation. But
I've never heard that. So no one's told that to me my whole life. Wow. But I guess it's
revelations.
True.
Yeah.
I get energy.
You can rally. Yeah, you rally.
Oh, rally.
You rally
John
hard.
Taylor Sweet would love that. I do rally. I when I'm with people like in spaces like at Socality stuff, I wear myself to the bone.
Yeah.
Like I use every last drop of energy that I have.
I love that.
And I go until I hit. I don't hit walls usually, but in those situations, I hit walls super hard. I'm like, and I'm done. Yep. I need 3 weeks off.
Yep. Yeah. It's like massive recovery. Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, a few more. If you were to give a TED Talk, what would you speak on?
I mean, I've kind of mentioned it before, but it would definitely be about like connection and disconnection, solitude, wilderness, all those ideas. And I mean, I could talk about cold showers and the benefits of those. That'd be a great TED Talk.
Hey, let's go.
Shout out to Thane Marcus Ringler. But it would probably be focused around those ideas. If not, like the power of social media. I feel like that's so like talked about, but my bent is definitely going to be focused towards like solitude.
Yeah, I like that. What truth do you have to preach to yourself most today? What's that most common self-talk for you?
You're good. For most of my life, I've really shamed whether like me or like even how I a lot of my insecurities has been around how I look. And that's just caused a lot of just, I don't know, physical manifestation of like not being happy with yourself and happy with how you look. And so a lot of it is just like been like physically like blessing like and calling what God made good. Like, hey, the hair that you have, it's good, and decide for yourself that it's good. You know, and that's been really hard, but something that is a common daily thing. Like, you don't have to be better. Like, as you are today is good enough, right? You are good enough.
I love that. What books have had the biggest impact on you?
I love books.
I love books. That's so good.
I'm gonna whisper it because it's really important. You know, when you whisper, people listen. One of the most impactful books in my life, I say next to the Bible, is a book, Essentialism. And obviously a lot of people know Essentialism. That's a great book, Less But Better. A whole idea of choices and this idea of decision fatigue like changed my life. Another really incredible book is Keep Your Love On by Danny Silk. That changed, when I talk about the flip of my relational structure, like that book is the initiator behind that shift. Another book is Garden City by John Montgomery, Work, Rest, and the Art of Being Human. Incredible book about Sabbath and disconnection and rest that has absolutely like changed a lot of the way that I see things. I could literally go on and on. The one John Eldredge book I will say that has been like super impactful, not Wild at Heart, sure, but like Waking the Dead and Fathered by God have been like life-changing books for me. My philosophy on books is I'd rather read one book 50 times than 50 books once, because I want to get everything that's from that book. So,
which book have you read the most outside of the Bible?
Oh, geez. You know, actually, I think a book, Frank Peretti, I think This Present Darkness. Oddly enough, I think that's the book I've read the most. Is that weird? I think that's right.
What's it about?
It is a fictional depiction of spiritual warfare.
Wow, that sounds interesting.
You've never heard of this book?
List. No,
dude. It's an original classic. We had to read in Christian school.
Wow,
super
I love
good.
that. Just a few more. What's your guilty pleasure?
The Bachelor.
Wow.
Yep. Every Monday for most of my life have I watched The Bachelor. Usually with my family or with people. We have parties, and on the final rose night, we always make slutty brownies, is what we call them.
Wow.
It's brownie with an Oreo and cookie dough on top.
Wow.
It's so good. So because you got to be slutty with The Bachelor.
Yeah.
And since I've moved, I haven't had friends to watch The Bachelor with really. So I've been watching it alone, and it's so sad.
That is sad.
And I can't believe the people that went home last night. Like, it was so depressing.
I wouldn't watch it with you. I'm sorry.
Do you watch The Bachelor?
No.
I feel like I could have a talk show about The Bachelor. It'd be great. Actually, you know what's funny? People say my look-alike is Nick Viall.
I don't know who that is.
He is, okay, for everyone listening, you probably know who Nick Viall is. He was one of the previous Bachelors.
Wow.
And it was creepy the whole time. My mom and multiple people would be like, I just can't watch it because you're making out with people every Monday night, and I can't do it. We're not the same like in character, but we have the same like way about ourselves. Anyways, shout out to Nick Viall, my twin. If you're listening to this,
tag him.
Follow me back.
Yeah. Let's connect.
Let's be friends.
Last two. What are your cornerstone habits?
One of my philosophies in life as well is discipline a year. And so I try to add one cornerstone habit every year. I don't want to put too much on my plate because I know or else I won't get done.
There can only be 4 cornerstones.
Good thing I'm only on year 2 of this then. Last year was really invoking Bible reading.
Yeah.
And just like setting, if not necessarily doing anything in the morning, but setting aside the time just to sit and be in silence and solitude, and just whatever is going to happen in time with Jesus to happen. That's an important cornerstone habit. The other one is exercise. And I think exercise leads to everything else in health, whether that's like eating better, sleeping better, making more mental disciplined decisions. So this year, my discipline is exercise. I've worked out my whole life. Thank you, Dad. But I took last year off for specific motivation reasons because I didn't have the right motivation. And on Monday, I start my Chris Hemsworth workouts.
Yeah.
Thor. Shout out to Thor.
Shout out.
Thor meets Thor right here, bro.
Okay.
Norwegian over here, you know? So, like, just putting in place, like, healthy rhythms of work, rest, sleep, exercise, I think is deep for me.
Last question. I ask every guest this question.
Oh, no pressure.
If you could send a morning text reminder to every up-and-comer out there, what would you say and why? It could be a phrase, a sentence, a few sentences. Every morning they get this text.
Geez. I do have there's a phrase that came immediately to mind as something maybe I should text. I think just because we've all we're in that place a lot, especially as creatives and as entrepreneurs, like our brains are very, we just think about everything and anything. And so like, that's like good and bad, you know? So like we can be very critical of ourselves and tough on ourselves. But there is this quote from Brian Johnson from Bethel that is like, I had forgotten about it until today. I looked back and went, oh my gosh, I need to remind myself of this so much more. He says, consider it a gift when God is your only option. And that's something that changed my life like 3 or 4 years ago when I heard that. And because I've been in that place where like, you just need to like be grateful for what you have right now and consider life right now a gift. And so maybe that's what I would send. Is like, consider it a gift. Like the season of life that you're in the middle of, like it is a gift to you, whether it's difficult or easy or enjoyable or whatever it is, like enjoy where you're at right now. Because it's all that you've been given. It's all you have. And you don't have control over anything else.
What a good word. What a good word to end on. Consider it a gift. Paul, this has been awesome. Give people some places that they can go find you. I mean, you're all over. So where should people go to get more Paul, to get more techno Paul?
Have you heard of Zanga before?
Zanga? Yeah.
You can find me on Zanga, zanga.com/Texas_Froggy.
Oh,
that is me, Froggy.
Yes.
GGY. That's a Iggy Azalea song.
I
Never
love
mind.
It. Yeah. No,
I'm really, you can, Instagram at TechnoPaul. That's me, or technopaul.com, wetheable.com, at wetheable. Instagram is.com if you want to watch the documentary. That's where that's at. Or technopaul.com is probably where most everything's going to be like housed and lived and stuff. Yeah.
Send them a shout out.
Or socality.org. Hey.
And ask them what socality means.
Oh, I'm gonna have so many ladies asking for my phone number.
Oh dang! Shoot. You know, we did open that can of worms, so I apologize. That is my fault.
It's okay. Don't give up my phone number thing.
We will not put that in the show notes.
Don't put that in the show notes.
It will not be in the show.
You can give my work. You can give out my business line.
Oh, there we go.
That's on our website.
Are you able? We are able. We the able.
Wow.
Okay. Well, until next time, we may have to run this back sometime because this is just too much. But it's good, brother. So thanks so much for the time.
Thanks for having me again, Thane.
And for all you listening, we hope you have an up and coming week.